Every night, like clockwork, we surrender. We dim the lights, we lay down, and we let go. We close our eyes and enter a world where reality bends, time dissolves, and logic vanishes. It's something we all do, something we all need, yet we barely understand it. Sleep. That mysterious state that consumes 1/3 of our lives. We know it's essential. We know we feel better after it. But here's a chilling truth. Even the most advanced scientists can't fully explain why we sleep. Sure, there are theories. Restoration of the body, memory consolidation, energy preservation. But ask any neuroscientist this one question. Why do we dream? And watch them hesitate. While the mechanics of sleep have been studied endlessly, the meaning, the purpose, and the depth of it still escape us. Some say dreams are just mental noise. Others believe they're echoes of alternate realities, or even messages from beyond. Now here's where it gets interesting. Across cultures, religions, and ancient traditions, sleep has never been just rest. In ancient Egypt, it was a sacred passage. To the Greeks, sleep and death were twin brothers. In Hinduism and Buddhism, dreams were spiritual communications, reflections of karmic truths and higher planes. And in modern times, some believe we're not just resting, we're resetting, uploading, downloading. That sleep is the period when the simulation repairs itself, where the code is rewritten, and you, the user, don't even realize it's happening. What if the dreams you have aren't fiction, but fragments of your other self, living in another dimension? What if that strange feeling of falling right before you drift off is your soul detaching from your body? And here's the wildest question of all. What if your waking life is the actual dream? This isn't just speculation, it's a rabbit hole that has seduced ancient mystics, modern physicists, neuroscientists, spiritual seekers, and philosophers alike. Because if sleep is a mystery, then dreams are the whispers of something greater, a hidden dimension, just beyond the veil. Tonight, you'll sleep again. But after this video, you may never think of sleep the same way again. In this journey, we will uncover the most mind-bending, thought-provoking, and unsettling sleep theories ever proposed. So turn off the lights, put your headphones in, and prepare to question everything you thought you knew about sleep. We live in a world driven by science. Satellites orbit our planet. We've mapped the human genome. We've created machines that can think. And yet, we still don't truly understand sleep. Let that sink in. For something so universal, so vital, and so deeply personal, sleep remains one of the greatest unsolved puzzles of the human experience. Science can track your brain waves. It can record when you enter REM sleep. It can show spikes in activity while you dream. It can even measure how sleep deprivation begins to degrade your cognitive function, your mood, your health. But here's the haunting truth. Science doesn't know why we need to sleep at all. You might be thinking, wait, don't we sleep to restore our bodies? That's what the restorative theory suggests. It claims that during sleep our body repairs tissue, builds muscle, and strengthens the immune system. But here's the catch. Our bodies already do that while we're awake, too. Healing doesn't stop when you're conscious. So why this daily surrender into unconsciousness? Another theory is the energy conservation theory. The idea is that by sleeping, we conserve energy for survival. Our metabolic rate drops, our body temperature decreases, and we become still. But again, this doesn't quite explain the complexity of dreams or the depths of sleep cycles. Then comes the memory consolidation theory, perhaps the most popular in neuroscience. It argues that during sleep, especially during REM, Your brain processes the information you've absorbed during the day. It strengthens important neural pathways and prunes irrelevant data. But even this theory, compelling as it sounds, leaves out one major detail. Why do we dream? Dreams are vivid, emotional, bizarre, often illogical. They contain people we've never met, places we've never been. Sometimes they're so real we wake up shaken, heart pounding, breath short. Science has no definitive explanation for this. Is it just random noise in the brain? Or are we touching something more? Here's where the limits of science start to show. We can measure activity, but we can't explain meaning. We can describe the what of sleep, but not the why. Think about it. We spend 1/3 of our lives asleep. That's roughly 25 to 30 years spent unconscious. Entire decades lived in the unknown. If sleep is just for survival, why make it so immersive? Why not just shut off like a light switch? Instead, we enter a cinematic world where our minds run free. We fly without wings. We speak with the dead. We experience time differently. We encounter symbols and narratives that often carry deeper emotional truths than anything we find in our waking life. This is where science meets the wall, because sleep is not just biological, it's existential. Now, here's another mind bender. Some creatures don't sleep at all. Take the bullfrog, for example. Scientists have found that it shows almost no change in behavior during rest periods. Certain species of dolphins shut off only one hemisphere of their brain at a time, half asleep, half awake. And then there's the phenomenon of lucid dreaming, where people become conscious within their dream state and control the dream as if they were directing a movie. How can this happen in what's supposed to be an unconscious process? Then you have sleepwalking, night terrors, exploding head syndrome, and sleep paralysis, conditions that defy the logic of biology. A person can get up, cook a meal, drive a car, even commit a crime, all while asleep. So, are they unconscious? Or are they operating in some strange overlap between mind and body? If sleep were just rest, it wouldn't be this complex. It wouldn't involve hallucinations. It wouldn't involve time distortion. It wouldn't involve such powerful emotional experiences. There's something more going on, something that science alone can't quite reach. It's like trying to study the ocean from a single drop of water. You may get the chemical composition, but you'll never feel the depth. So, where does this leave us? It leaves us with questions, uncomfortable questions. Could sleep be a natural doorway to another layer of consciousness? Is dreaming a biological accident or a bridge to something higher? Is sleep the reset of our brain's hardware or the awakening of something buried deep in our psyche? Or what if the scientific model is simply incomplete? What if, just like ancient explorers who believed the Earth was flat, we're only seeing a fraction of what sleep is? This brings us to a radical idea, one that science refuses to validate, but that ancient wisdom and emerging theories continue to whisper. Maybe sleep isn't for the body at all. Maybe it's for the soul. And that is where we begin our descent into the deeper, stranger, and far more mysterious theories of sleep. Because if science can't explain it, something else just might. What if sleep isn't natural? What if every time you close your eyes, something or someone is resetting you, calibrating your memories, cleaning up errors, installing updates, just like a machine, just like a program? Welcome to the simulation reset theory. The idea that sleep is not a biological necessity, but a systemic requirement in a simulated reality. Sounds crazy? Maybe. But so did gravity once. Let's take a step back. You've probably heard of the simulation hypothesis, popularized by philosopher Nick Bostrom and embraced by thinkers like Elon Musk. It suggests that reality, as we know it, is likely a simulation, a highly advanced program running on an even more sophisticated system, perhaps created by a post-human civilization or a higher intelligence. According to this theory, we're not living in reality, we're rendered into it. Conscious code, digital minds experiencing a meticulously designed virtual environment. So, how does sleep fit into this? Let's think like a developer. Any complex system needs maintenance windows. Every app on your phone gets updates. Every operating system schedules background processes. Even video games require time to refresh assets, run calculations, and load environments. And what's the one time you, as a user, are most vulnerable? When you're asleep. In a simulated world, sleep becomes the maintenance mode. During sleep, the simulation can defragment your memories, upload new personality updates, run background diagnostics, erase unstable thoughts or conflicting patterns. And you think you're dreaming, but really, you're buffering. Let's push this idea further. Have you ever woken up with a completely different mood, like you're a new version of yourself? Reset overnight? Ever had a dream so vivid, so powerful, it feels like you lived another life while you slept? Maybe that's because your consciousness was running in debug mode, exploring alternate lines of code, alternate lives you might have lived. This would also explain déjà vu, that uncanny sensation of having been here before. Perhaps you have, in another version, a beta versio, a test simulation, and the memory simply wasn't wiped clean. And let's talk about those days when you wake up exhausted, like you didn't sleep at all. In the simulation model, that could mean your system was overloaded. Too many variables, too many memory leaks. So instead of dreaming, your consciousness was force-paused while a massive reboot was running in the background. It also sheds light on sleep paralysis, the terrifying state where your mind wakes up, but your body doesn't move. Science says it's a REM atonia glitch. But what if it's a simulation lag? Your consciousness comes back online before the avatar fully loads, and in that moment you see behind the curtain, shadowy figures, dark entities, strange environments, all possibly a glimpse of raw simulation code before the world finishes rendering. There's more. The average human dreams for about 2 hours per night. But dreams don't follow normal time. They can stretch, loop, jump. It's as if time is fluid inside the dream, like it doesn't obey the same rules. And that's exactly what we'd expect if the environment is programmed. Time is just another variable, another setting. This would also explain why sleep is mandatory. Deprive yourself long enough, and your body begins to break down. Yes, but more disturbingly, your mind begins to warp. You hallucinate. Your sense of reality fractures. Because maybe, just maybe, the simulation needs you to sleep, to stay functional, to remain stable. You've probably heard stories of monks, sages, or mystics who enter deep meditative trances for days, saying they're traveling elsewhere. What if these altered states are hacks, bypass codes, ways to access the simulation while still conscious? Because here's the chilling part. If sleep is a system update, then dreaming might be the interface, a soft mask over the true process so the user doesn't panic, like that friendly loading screen on your phone, or a peaceful animation while your system restarts, all to keep you from realizing you're not in control. Now, this isn't just modern speculation. The idea that our reality is illusory dates back thousands of years. The ancient Hindu concept of Maya describes the world as a divine illusion, an elaborate dream that fools the senses. The philosopher Descartes once questioned if an evil demon was feeding him a false reality. Today, we just call it artificial intelligence. And if all of this is a simulation, who or what is running it? Are we part of a grand experiment, an AI training model, a virtual reincarnation engine? We may never know, but what we do know is this. Sleep feels too intentional, too symbolic, too deeply ingrained in every culture to be just biological. It might be the system's way of keeping us aligned. A programmed pause, a quiet reboot. And the strangest part, we accept it. Close your eyes. Let go of your body. Let go of time. Let go of gravity itself. You're floating now, detached, aware, not dreaming, not awake, just present. This is not your imagination. This is what countless mystics, sages, and modern-day experiencers call astral projection. And it raises one chilling question. What if you're not just dreaming while you sleep? What if you're traveling? The astral body, your double in the shadows. Throughout human history, cultures around the globe have described a strange phenomenon, the soul leaving the body during sleep. In ancient Egypt, it was the ka, the vital essence that could roam the spirit world while the body rested. In China, they called it the hun, the spiritual soul that departs the body during dreams. In Hinduism and Buddhism, it's referred to as subtle energy, the prana or atman, temporarily unbound from the physical form. In Christianity and Islam, visions and prophetic dreams are described as divine revelations, otherworldly experiences granted during states of rest or unconsciousness. But in modern terms, we know it by another name, astral projection, the supposed ability of the consciousness to travel outside the physical body, often during sleep or meditative states. Is this just symbolic language, or are we slipping through dimensions without even realizing it? The out-of-body experience, more than a dream. Let's go deeper. Many people report out-of-body experiences, OBEs, especially during trauma, surgery, or near-death encounters. They describe floating above their bodies, watching themselves from the ceiling, seeing nurses, hearing conversations, even reading objects that were physically impossible to see from their perspective. These aren't isolated incidents. Studies by Dr. Sam Parnia and researchers in resuscitation science have recorded verified cases where patients described events occurring during clinical death, moments when the brain showed no activity, no EEG spikes, nothing. So where was their mind? Where were they? Perhaps more shockingly, people have learned to induce these states deliberately. Through breathing exercises, sound frequencies, and deep meditation, some claim they can exit their body at will. They speak of silver cords connecting them to their physical form. They describe tunnels of light, vibrational shifts, and entities watching them from the beyond. Once detached, they say, the world looks the same, but strangely different, sharper, brighter, almost holographic. And here's where it connects to sleep. Lucid dreaming versus astral projection. What's the difference? In a lucid dream, you become aware that you're dreaming. You can shape the world, fly, conjure anything you want. It's like a sandbox for the subconscious mind. But astral projection, that's something else. It feels different. There's a level of clarity, of hyper-reality, that even lucid dreams can't match. In lucid dreams, you manipulate your surroundings. In astral projection, you observe, you explore, you travel. Many say that the astral world is structured in layers or dimensions. The lower layers resemble our world, dense, familiar, but slightly off. Higher planes become more abstract, more luminous, less bound by form, and sometimes you're not alone. The beings of the astral plane. Many travelers describe encounters with non-human intelligences. Some appear angelic, luminous beings of light and love. Others, not so much. There are reports of shadowy entities, watchers, and even shape-shifting forms that seem curious or hostile. What are these beings? Some say they are projections of our psyche. Others believe they are independent consciousnesses, inhabitants of these alternate dimensions. In Tibetan Buddhism, these are known as tulpas, thought forms that take on a life of their own. In Western esotericism, they might be called egregores, spirit guides, or astral parasites. Are they real? Maybe the better question is, are you real while you're there? Dream portals, doors to other dimensions. Have you ever had a dream that felt like a place? Not just an event, but a location that seems to persist across multiple dreams? Somewhere familiar, yet foreign? This is what many astral practitioners call a dream portal, an access point to another realm of consciousness. You visit it again and again. It evolves. You remember it like a memory, not just a dream. It might be a strange city, a temple, a desert, a space that defies gravity. Sometimes these dream locations hold symbols, people, or messages that seem to know you. This is the theory. Your dreams are not random. They are gateways. And if you can train yourself to become aware within them, you can explore a far vaster universe than the one you wake up to. Some even believe the astral plane is more real than the physical. But let's not forget, our entire sense of normal comes from what our five senses tell us, and those senses are notoriously easy to deceive. Sciences struggle with the astral naturally. Mainstream science dismisses astral projection. It labels it as a hallucination, a side effect of REM sleep, hypnagogia, or neurological quirks. But here's the twist. There are too many accounts, from different cultures, different times, and different ages, describing the same sensations, the same layers, the same journey. Could it all be a coincidence? Or are we experiencing a consistent reality just outside the normal frequency range of our waking minds? Maybe our brains aren't creating the experience. Maybe they're receiving it, like antennas tuning into a wider, deeper broadcast, and when we sleep, the channel changes. So, where do you go when you sleep? That's the question. You may think you're just lying still, but your mind is active, your consciousness is drifting, and perhaps, just perhaps, you're visiting places that exist beyond this world, places that can't be measured by machines, that can't be explained by biology, but that feels more real than real. So tonight when your body drifts off, pay attention. You might feel a buzzing, a shift, a sense of floating. Don't fight it. You may just be about to wake up in another world. Long before sleep was dissected by neuroscientists, scanned by machines, or explained by biology, humanity revered it as a sacred ritual. Sleep wasn't just rest, it was a doorway, a spiritual journey, a crossing into other worlds, other dimensions, other states of being. In ancient times, dreams weren't meaningless hallucinations. They were messages from the gods, maps of the soul, signs, warnings, and initiations. And in many cultures, sleep wasn't just personal. It was divine protocol. So what exactly did the ancients know that we've forgotten? Let's journey back in time to the origins of sleep as spiritual practice, the dream temples of ancient Egypt and Greece. Over 4,000 years ago in ancient Egypt, there existed sacred spaces known as dream temples. These were not places for sleep, but for healing. The sick and the troubled would enter in silence. They'd fast, purify, meditate, and finally lie down to sleep, not to rest, but to receive. Priests trained in dream interpretation would stand by, ready to decode the visions. They believed that gods, particularly Thoth and Serapis, sent dreams to guide, cure, and realign the soul. Across the Mediterranean, in ancient Greece, the practice evolved into what was called incubation, a sacred rite in temples of Asclepius, the god of healing. Pilgrims seeking answers would sleep on special stone beds known as clines, hoping for a divine dream that would show them the path to recovery, physically or spiritually. And it worked. Not just in myth. There are scrolls filled with accounts of people waking with detailed cures, warnings, and instructions they claimed came from another realm. To the ancients, sleep wasn't downtime. It was the hotline to the divine. Indigenous dreamwalkers and vision quests. Travel to the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, and you'll find the concept of dream time. Not a time of unconsciousness, but a spiritual dimension that precedes and underlies reality. Dream time is the eternal every-when, the place where ancestral spirits shape the land and still guide the living. In their sleep, elders and shamans would walk in dream time, traveling across landscapes of spirit, receiving guidance, connecting to their ancestors, and even shaping reality itself. To them, dreams were not reflections of reality. Dreams were reality. Everything else was an illusion. Among Native American traditions, sleep was equally sacred. The Lakota, the Ojibwe, and many others spoke of vision quests, deliberate periods of isolation, fasting, and altered sleep meant to trigger prophetic dreams. Their tools: nature, silence, and the dream catcher, a woven charm meant not just to block bad dreams, but to filter what energies were allowed into your consciousness while you slept. These cultures didn't study dreams under microscopes. They respected them, because they understood something we often overlook. Sleep opens the inner eye, and through that, you see beyond the veil. The Tibetan yogis and the art of dream control. In the remote Himalayas, a secret tradition has been passed down for centuries. Dream yoga. Practiced by Tibetan monks and mystics, dream yoga isn't about dreaming. It's about becoming aware inside the dream. This isn't lucid dreaming as a novelty. This is a spiritual discipline. Practitioners train their minds to wake up within sleep, using their dreams as test grounds for confronting fear, dissolving ego, and navigating the layers of bardo, the intermediate states between life, death, and rebirth. To them, your ability to stay conscious in a dream is a reflection of your ability to stay conscious at death. Because death, they say, is just another kind of dream, one that you don't wake up from unless you've trained. Through visualizations, mantras, and breathwork, the monks teach that you can not only become aware in your sleep, you can leave the body, explore other planes, meet teachers, and accelerate your enlightenment. And that all begins with one nightly ritual: falling asleep with awareness. Mystical Christianity, Islam, and the sleep of prophets. Even in the Abrahamic traditions, where spirituality often takes a different form, sleep holds sacred meaning. In Christianity, the Bible is filled with divine dreams. Joseph dreams of his future rise to power. Daniel interprets kings' dreams, revealing hidden truths. The Magi are warned in a dream not to return to Herod. Sleep, in this context, is when God speaks, not in thunder or fire, but in whispers to the soul. In Islamic tradition, dreams are known as ruya, visions, and the Prophet Muhammad is said to have received true dreams before his first revelations. He even spoke of 3 types of dreams: from the self, nafs; from Satan, shaitan; and from God, Allah, the true visions. In Sufi mysticism, sleep becomes a pathway to union with the divine. Not an escape, but a bridge. And in all these traditions, dreams are interpreted, not dismissed. They are believed to hold messages, keys, sometimes even warnings of events yet to come. What did the ancients truly understand? They knew that sleep was not passive, it was sacred, active, a nightly ritual of soul work. To them, the world of dreams was not inside the mind. It was a world of its own, and your access to it, through sleep, was a gift, a skill, even a responsibility. They fasted before sleep, chanted, prayed, entered sacred spaces, all because they believed what happens during the night shapes who you become in the day. Modern science calls dreams noise, a side effect of memory sorting, a byproduct of the brain. But the ancients knew better. They didn't have EEG machines, no brain scans, or sleep labs. But they had direct experience. And in that experience, they saw something we're only beginning to remember. That sleep is a gateway. And what lies beyond that gate might be more real, more importantly, and more eternal than anything we see while awake. What is consciousness? Are these your thoughts, your memories, the awareness that whispers, I am? Neuroscience can track brain waves, scan the mind's electrical storms, and label stages of sleep. But here's the haunting truth. We still don't know what consciousness is. We know when it seems to happen. We know how to measure its activity. But we don't know where it comes from, or where it goes when we fall asleep. And that mystery might be the most important question humanity has ever asked. Because if sleep alters, dissolves, or even liberates our consciousness, then perhaps it's in sleep, not waking life, where the real you is found. Let's step into the deep end. The great blackout. Where do you go? Every night. Have you ever thought about what happens during dreamless sleep? Not the colorful chaos of REM, not the fantasies and fears of the subconscious, but that space where there are no thoughts, no images, just void. That's called non-REM deep sleep, and for many it's a complete blackout. No awareness, no self, no time. And yet, you always return. So where did you go? Is that void simply a shutdown, or did your consciousness shift into a state beyond memory, beyond form? In Eastern philosophy, this dreamless state is not emptiness, it is pure awareness. In Advaita Vedanta, it is the Turiya, the fourth state beyond waking, dreaming, and sleeping. A state of being without being, where consciousness is but has no content. Modern science calls it slow-wave sleep. The sages call it enlightenment's mirror. Sleep and the hard problem of consciousness. Let's get scientific for a moment. Philosopher David Chalmers coined the term the hard problem of consciousness. It asks, how do physical processes in the brain produce subjective experience? In other words, why does electricity firing in your brain feel like something? Why does the sight of a sunset move you? Why does a song make you cry? No theory, no lab, no AI model can fully explain why there is something it is like to be you. But when we sleep, something strange happens. The self dissolves, time warps, emotions shift. Sometimes your sense of identity splits. You watch yourself from above. Other times you're someone else altogether. And yet, you're still there. This suggests something profound. Consciousness may not be tied to your waking identity. It may be fluid, layered, and deeper than we ever imagined. Maybe the you think you are is only a fragment, and sleep is the doorway to what lies beneath. Are we dreaming ourselves awake? Here's a wild idea. one echoed in both spiritual and scientific circles. What if waking life is just another form of dream? Neuroscientists like Anil Seth describe perception as a controlled hallucination. Your brain constantly guesses what's out there, using sensory input as clues. What you see, hear, feel, it's a mental model, a simulation. And most of it happens unconsciously. Now combine that with the Buddhist notion that reality is illusion, Maya, that what we call the external world is a projection shaped by mind, karma, and memory. Suddenly, the difference between sleep and wakefulness begins to blur. Some philosophers argue that sleep might not just reflect our inner world, it may be more real than waking consciousness, because it strips away the filters, no body, no ego, no expectations, just awareness. So which state is closer to truth? Are we truly awake? Or are we dreaming that we're awake, trapped in a loop we don't even recognize? The brain as a receiver. Is consciousness non-local? Here's where science and mysticism meet. Some researchers, especially in quantum neuroscience and consciousness studies, propose that the brain is not a generator of consciousness, but a receiver, like a radio tuning into frequencies. When you sleep, the frequency shifts. Your brain stops processing the physical world and begins tuning into internal or extra-dimensional signals. This theory aligns with reports of shared dreams, telepathic dream communication, remote viewing prophetic visions. It even ties in with near-death experiences, where people report heightened awareness, memory clarity, and out-of-body perceptions, even when their brain is clinically non-functional. If true, this changes everything. It means you are not your brain. Your essence, your consciousness, exists beyond it. And sleep? Sleep is when the static clears and the signal comes through. Consciousness, identity, and the death simulation. Let's confront something uncomfortable. Every night we simulate death. Our senses fade, our control fades, our ego fades. Sometimes even memory, self-awareness, or time fades. And yet, we wake up. This cycle, sleep and waking, may be nature's training ground for dying. Many spiritual systems teach that sleep and death are twins. Death is just the long sleep, and if we can remain conscious through sleep, we might remain conscious through death. In Tibetan dream yoga, this is the ultimate purpose, to prepare for what's called the bardo, the space between death and rebirth. To recognize it, to stay aware of it, to break free. Think of sleep as a daily practice for the ultimate transformation, and that means every night. You're not just resting, you're entering the cosmic classroom. You're rehearsing for the moment when your body can't return. The better you sleep, with awareness, with clarity, the better you live. And perhaps, the better you die. So, who are you? Let's pull it all together. When you sleep, your thoughts dissolve, your identity fades, your reality bends. And yet, something remains. A presence, a point of perception, the silent witness behind the noise. That is the mystery. That is the truth sages, scientists, and seekers have all tried to name. And perhaps, just perhaps, sleep is the clearest mirror of who you are. Not your job, not your name, not even your memories, but the aware being who moves through dreams, who watches from within, who wakes up every morning without fully knowing where they've been. So tonight, as you drift off, don't just sleep. Observe. Let your body rest. Let your thoughts drift. But stay present. Because the journey ahead is not into darkness, but into you. You've now seen the theories. You've explored the science and the spirituality and the mystery of sleep. And now the question is yours. When you close your eyes tonight, where will you go? Please remember to like, comment, and share this video. Stay tuned for the next content.